A short internet search will turn up plenty of people who call Vladimir Putin a madman. President Biden disagrees. He spoke with CNN's Jake Tapper this week, and here's a bit of what he said.
Do you think Putin is a rational actor?
I think he is a rational actor who's miscalculated significantly. I think he thought, you may recall, I pointed out that they were going to invade, that those 100,000 or more troops there, and no one believed that he was going to invade Ukraine. You listen to what he says. If you listen to the speech he made after, when that decision was being made, he talked about the whole idea of he needed to be the leader of Russia that united all the Russian speakers. I mean, I just think it's irrational.
So if he's not rational and...
No, I didn't say he's not rational.
You said the speech wasn't
I think the speech is...
Okay.
His objectives were not right. I think he thought, Jake, I think he thought he was going to be welcomed with open arms. That this has been the home of Mother Russia in Kyiv, and he was going to be welcomed. And I think he just totally miscalculated.
For more on this, let's bring in Andrew Weiss. He's the Vice President for Studies at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Andrew is also the author of the upcoming graphic novel biography, Accidental Czar, The Life and Lies of Vladimir Putin. So, Andrew, what does it matter if Putin is a rational actor? And let me tag on to that. You've studied his life. You know his life. Has he always been rational in the way he is behaving now, if in fact you agree he's being rational?
So Vladimir Putin is a cunning and very street smart, very agile, long-term leader on the international stage. There's no doubt about that. He's been in power for 20 plus years. And throughout that period, he has lost Ukraine 3 times. So it is the biggest black mark on the man's record. And over the course of the pandemic, he basically stewed in his own juice, and he thought there was an opportunity to take Ukraine back by force. And as President Biden just said a second ago, he has made an epic blunder. But what I think viewers and others need to remember is that Vladimir Putin is someone who's often let his emotions get the best of him. And so if you go back to the earliest days of his KGB career, he's someone who basically nearly derailed his KGB career by getting into a fight on a subway car when someone was bothering him. So he has long had a reputation for being impulsive and emotional, and we're seeing that on display now.
So if he has impulsive emotional issues, how do you assess his ability to take the embarrassment that this invasion has become for him? He's amputated himself from much of the world, and Ukraine is taking territory back. How does he process that, in your view?
So being the leader of Russia is a great thing because it means never having to say you're sorry. And there's a long tradition of Russian and Soviet leaders, even when something is horribly embarrassing, never saying oops or please forgive me. So that's encoded in the leadership of the people who run the Kremlin. But more broadly, I think what people need to be worried about is whether Putin is now cornered and whether he fears for his own personal safety and whether he fears for the unraveling of his political regime, which he's built up over the past 20 years. And I think it's precisely that possibility and the risk that this war could continue to spiral in ways that are very bad for the Russian side that are making Western leaders, including President Biden, so worried about all of that nuclear saber rattling.
Well, what's your assessment then of how cornered he is, not from external forces, but internally, either in the inside game or in the public game?
So Russia doesn't have a public game, really. There's no politics. Vladimir Putin's not running for office, and all of the Russian elite, for the most part, have stayed behind him. So there's no prominent defections. There's no splits in the Russian elite. What we've seen, in fact, is a level of submissiveness and acceptance of the unacceptable. All of this horrible violence, and there's barely a peep out of anybody who matters in the Russian political system. But, and this is the big but, is would Putin have any counterbalance if he chose to do something as dangerous and unprecedented as using nuclear weapons on the battlefield? And unfortunately, there just aren't good counterbalances. It is a one-man system overall.
Finally, Andrew, Putin has unleashed a fury over the last couple of days. What was holding him back before? Why wasn't he doing that before the bridge and the advances of Ukraine?
So a lot of what we need to remember is, and I think Joe Biden captured this really well, is how everything Putin has tried to do here looks either like it was based on irrational exuberance and false expectations, either of great overnight military success that never materialized, or grassroots support in Ukraine, which clearly has not happened at any stage of this war. But I think what we also need to remember is that the Russian policy keeps being based on trial and error. There was the first approach, which was let's take Kiev in 3 days. It then morphed into let's take the Donbass and bludgeon it into submission. And now we see Putin improvising again. And I think we all should be very sober about the Russian government's ability to escalate this conflict. And the attacks of the last few days demonstrate that the Russian government has the ability to hit important civilian infrastructure all across Ukraine and make life there for people absolutely miserable.
Andrew Weiss, the author of Accidental Czar, The Life and Lies of Vladimir Putin. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you, John.